10 and you'll be free to start.
You're telling me to count to 10? Hello, Link to the Cure. I'm the TheBigK1, and I'm gonna be playing some Cyber Shadow for you here today. This is a great game that was made a couple of years ago. I think it was 2020 now, if I recall. I'm losing track of time. This game was made by one guy, and it is a masterpiece if you haven't played it. I'm joined here today with Samurai co-commentating.
Hey everybody, Samurai Udansha, and go by Samurai. Yeah, we're in for a treat here with Cyber Shadow. Some people have seen it, but this is a relatively new indie game. As Big K mentioned, it was created by one man known as Mecha Skull. He did an exceptional job considering the scope of this game. It's extremely difficult. If you like difficult games that are in the vein of a Ninja Gaiden type of game, you probably would really enjoy this. This is going to be the any % run, so Big K is just going to be trying to go through the game as quickly as he can and free the master, as we call it.
That's right. I think I'm going to get started here right away, too. It starts pretty much right on hitting the button, but yeah, I'm just going to get going, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what could happen with this game. Sometimes it goes really smoothly, other times it gets kind of rough. You can die a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, we refer to that as cyber shadowed. So if you start getting a string of bad luck, we say that you got cyber shadowed. So good luck, Big K.
All right. I'm going to start on 3, 2, 1. And I clicked the wrong button for that one. Let's go! So yeah, this game actually does have an auto splitter, so it's awkward to switch setups for something like this.
Yeah, and luckily the game is not terribly long. Now, if you decided that you wanted to put in the effort to play it casually, you could expect to spend somewhere close to 10 to 15 hours on the game on the first playthrough, and you'd probably be looking at approximately 400 to 500 deaths. So that's why I mentioned that. It is a pretty difficult game, but as long as you put forth the effort, it's very rewarding. Considering how difficult the game can be at times, once you get through some of the levels and get through some of the bosses, it's extremely rewarding when you're playing this game.
Yep. Early on, this game actually does have a lot of upgrades that you get throughout the game. Early on, there's not a lot of really any kind of speedrun tech. Little tiny one you'll see briefly here is trying to jump as close to the ledge as possible. You save frames, whole frames.
Well, you do have some interesting stuff like having some strategic knockbacks from damage boosting. Just smooth and clean movement, though, overall, is what's really going to help you out in this first level. This is more or less, for lack of a better term, it's kind of a tutorial stage. As Big K mentioned already, you don't really have any kind of strong, powerful weapons or upgrades or anything like that. It's really just basic, so you're kind of learning how to platform and how to maneuver through the world here. So it's a pretty good test, though. You just really have to focus on optimizing this portion of the game, though, because there's not really a lot of speed tech, as Big K already mentioned that as well.
Yeah. The biggest thing right here is just these little boosts through enemies getting damaged through. You have to,
as well as catching cycles too. This game is heavily cycle based, and depending on whenever you get the screen scrolling, it can actually affect the cycles because it's more or less like a local cycle. It's not really a big global cycle all the time. And Big K now is coming up here to the first, you could call it the first boss. It's a mini boss though. But as you see, Big K is trying to get as many slashes in as possible. There is a linger effect with the sword, so every time that you attack, the hitbox lasts a little bit longer than the swing does, and then in which case Big K is making sure he's getting in as many hits as he possibly can in every jump in order to make sure that he's maximizing that damage per second.
Yeah, and then little thing there, like you can, if you go in and out of that door, it actually saves you like a little second, because you have to wait for these little platforms to raise up for you. Yeah, this level is mostly damage boosting.
Go ahead, sorry.
This level is mostly damage boosting through enemies, making sure you face the right way.
Yeah, now I was going to give just a little bit of background on this game while we're kind of pushing through the platforming portions of this level. Basically, you're a cybernetic ninja, and there's a really evil bad guy that you're going to be meeting at some point, Dr. Progen. He's essentially a really bad person. He's trying to destroy all these ninjas, and you're trying to save the master so that way you can save your clan, because you are a ninja in this game. So the ultimate goal, as I mentioned earlier on, is to free the master. So it's basically the ninja master that you're trying to save.
Yeah, and all the bosses are your fallen ninja clan, roboticized. That's
yeah, and after you defeat the bosses, you'll actually see some of the clan's members that perish because of this whole fight. But they're extending their powers to you. So you'll see exactly what we're talking about here in just a moment, because Big K is coming up on the first actual boss, the end of level 1. Alright, the Apparator here, you really just want to get in as many hits as possible. Big K was standing as close as he could up front in order to make sure that he was able to maintain constant damage while that was all happening. And, just one hit. Okay, he was able to clip his toenails. Nice.
Yeah,
we'll call that a 1.5 cycle.
Not too much to examine on that one, but yeah, you want to get as close to you as you can because it actually avoids his first projectile throw. And other than that, you just kind of damage boost through him and, yeah, try to get him before he jumps up like that.
Alright, so the very first weapon that the first sub-weapon that Big K picked up is going to be the Shuriken. And as he heads into Chapter 2, he's got to use one as soon as he enters the room in order to hit that switch in time. Because if you don't hit that switch as soon as you enter the room, you have to wait just a moment in order to allow the bridge to spawn. So, a little bit of speed tech. Make sure you throw that Shuriken as fast as possible.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately going to have to focus a little tiny bit on this level. This level is not the hardest, but it gets you if you're not
It's just those cycles, as I mentioned earlier, because you have those trash blocks falling on a constant cycle, and then you have the bugs flying around, causing problems everywhere. I mean, who likes flying creatures in any video game?
Yeah,
this game is no exception.
These flies are the worst.
Oh my goodness, you were not lying. And the unfortunate part is Big K is actually about to get into another little mini boss here, and lo and behold, it is probably the biggest bug you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, the game thought you liked flies already, so here's one that chews flies. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so this is can be a fight. They can start to troll you really bad. Luckily, Big K didn't die there. He came pretty close there. He was pretty fortunate.
Yeah, the biggest time loss in this game, really, once you get decent at it, is just deaths. Deaths cost you the biggest time.
They absolutely do now, but the great thing about this game, though, is that when you die, it goes pretty quickly. It'll go from death to rebirth, so to speak, pretty fast. So you don't lose a ton of time. Where you lose all your time is basically having to travel back through the level from the save point. They were pretty generous in this game with the save points. Speaking of which, you can actually buy upgrades at the checkpoints. For this one, Big K got a Blade Extend, which helps increase the range of his attack as well as the power of his attack. It's very useful on this boss to make it a very quick fight. Big K did pretty well there.
Yeah, that is almost one of the hardest bosses in the game, to do fast. To do it fast is hard.
It really is, because those trash blocks, they can sneak up on you sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing with this level in particular, it's mostly cycles, but there's pits everywhere that are an insta-death, so it's definitely the scariest part of this. Also, this elevator is covered in spikes that also kill you in one hit. kind of the theme of this level.
Yeah. Gotta love auto scrollers.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes
Luckily,
you just
you're
get...
not running on an earlier version, though, because when this game first came out, this elevator was excruciatingly difficult.
There were
On one of
flies
the
everywhere.
updates, he actually kind of dialed back the difficulty of this elevator a good bit. Because I promise you, on my first casual playthrough of this game, oh my goodness, this elevator took me forever.
Yeah, it's funny speedrunning this after the first, like, month since the game came out, because the first month, it was hard. And it's still hard, but some levels have been tweaked a little bit. And it's funny playing them now because they're a lot easier.
Yeah, and in general, though, it was very friendly for speedrunning. It made it a little bit more accessible for a lot more people.
Yeah.
So I was very appreciative of the changes that were made. And shout outs to Mecha Skull on this game. After the game was released, he was working with the community quite a bit. We were discussing issues that we were having all the time. Bugs were being reported whenever they were found. And he did a very good job helping to make sure that he preserved the game, yet made it more friendly for speedrunning. It was a really good experience, I would have to say. If he were to make any more games in the future, I would probably have to check it out for possible speedrunning because of that.
Yeah, Mecha Skull's awesome.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy.
Alright, this next boss, just waiting for the trash pile to climb up. This guy's another one where you kind of just get up close and try to avoid all these hits.
Yeah, the Scrambler, unfortunately, if you maintain any kind of distance away from the Scrambler, he tends to change up his attacks, but if you stay really close, his attacks become extremely predictable. So all the speedrunners always try to stay really close so you can maintain constant damage, as well as maintain a constant pattern. So it makes a very trivial fight.
Yep. Then beating Scrambler, we're able to free our next ninja friend. I mean, none of them really make it, but but we get upgrades from it, so...
Yeah, and this one is called the Rising Fire. What this one will allow him to do is, it's basically a uppercut made of fire. He'll swing a sword and it'll throw fireballs up, so that way you can attack enemies that are directly above you. You'll see Big K make extensive use of that on a boss coming up in the next level. Not this level, but level 4, chapter 4.
This is the first part of the game where I always love the music. The music in this game is also amazing.
Oh, pretty much every track in this game is awesome.
Yeah, this level has a lot of little tricks I unfortunately won't really be attempting because it doesn't really work for me. There's a lot of little clips you can do on jumps here, and it actually speeds up the level a bit, but I'm pretty sure it's based off your refresh rate, if I understand
It is,
correct.
for the most part. Now, I believe that it is possible to do it on higher refresh rates. It's typically extremely difficult, but on 60 frames per second, it's actually pretty easy to do the ledge clips. And
Yeah.
basically what you do is you have to jump on the very side of a ledge, and it, for lack of a better term, it allows Ninja to just fall onto the edge of the platform. It's kind of difficult to explain, but it's easy to see it if you can actually like pay attention whenever something like that happens. There's going to be a lot of damage boosting in this level as well. So there are times that it can get kind of hair-raising because you get kind of low on health.
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't really mean to get hit, but sometimes you have to really quickly try to correct your direction so that you boost into the right, so that you don't boost into a pit.
Yeah, that's the worst. Because there are some fire pits and stuff coming up. Instant death. So Big K's gonna have to be really careful.
But yeah, you kind of want to save your blue SP here as much as possible. It's what you use for your shuriken and your the upwards fire attack I got. Every special attack uses SP, and you generally want to try keep at least one at all times, just because you never know when you need it. It can get you out of a lot of close calls.
Alright, we're coming up on another mini boss here. This one's pretty simple. You have to basically just destroy that main core that TheBigK1 is constantly attacking right now. Meanwhile, you have several turrets that are constantly firing at you. So it's not very easy. It's entirely possible to get cyber shadowed here and die. But luckily, if something like that were to happen, you're right by a checkpoint. TheBigK was able to easily dispatch of that mini boss. He's continuing to move on, and as you can see here, here's those fire pits I was mentioning earlier. Gotta make sure you don't fall in those.
Yep. Also, along the way, the money we're getting along the way it's pretty important later. We don't spend a lot of money, but there's just a couple instances where we need to buy an upgrade for a boss. There's a couple times where you can kind of get by without, but yeah, for the most part, you want to collect kind of as much as possible.
There's nothing worse than getting to a point that you really need an item and just don't have the money to afford it. It makes the game extremely difficult sometimes, and you can lose several minutes just trying to do backup strats to get past it. So it's, as Big K mentioned, it's very wise to have very good money management skills in this game.
Like the biggest point where it really comes into where you really need it is at the very end, and that's if you manage your money correctly, you'll have enough to get the final boss really easy. But if you're low on money at the end, then you're in for a pretty rough final fight.
Well, luckily too, though, as long as things go well, there is a strat that we refer to as the ATM machine that can really boost your money in this game, but it can be kind of difficult sometimes, because all it takes is, you don't even have to die, you just take a couple hits, and it's extremely easy to not get the ATM machine.
Yeah.
And then it makes money management extremely difficult for the later game. We really rely heavily on that in the speed run.
Yeah, I'll definitely get it here. Here we're buying an item right now. This is actually called the Swag Star. It's not a meme. It is the Swag Star.
Yeah, the Swag Blade definitely is extremely helpful here because it just constantly flies around, and you see Big K methodically jumping to make sure that he's getting that whip effect, so that way he's able to get more and more and more hits here on Biohunter. That makes this boss extremely easy as well.
Yeah, it's also the first time we really used Rising Fire, which is the fire attack we got from the last boss.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, that you don't really see a whole lot of it until the next level. The next level boss, it's going to be used quite a bit as long as RNG plays in your favor.
Yeah. This new item we got, though, we do use a lot. It's a downward slash attack. Makes Shadow go down really fast in long sight lines.
Big K is going to try to time his jump here as soon as he jumps out of the water in order to get it to... Okay, he got it. Basically, he was trying to get the Swag Blade to go up above the top of the screen in order to hit a bomb on a wall, because whenever you come out of this shrine that he's going into now, you have to destroy that wall in order to exit the cave. By destroying it earlier, you do save, I believe it's approximately 4 seconds of sitting there just waiting for the bomb to explode. So it's not a huge time save, but it's a time save nonetheless.
Yeah.
We're in the first shrine here. We're trying to beat this monkey to the top of the shrine, and what'll happen is if you lose to the monkey, the door will close, but if you win, which Big K looks like he's about to, he's going to get his next upgrade. Probably one of the most important upgrades in the game, because it allows Ninja to climb walls. Excuse me, he's not Ninja, his name is Shadow.
This game came right after The Messenger, and it has a lot of similarities to The Messenger, but if you've played that, it's definitely familiar feeling. until you get to the second half. Second half is a lot faster.
And we'll see that coming up here soon. Alright, moving on to Chapter 4, Reactor. This is where the game, it starts to get a little bit more difficult. Some of the sections are a little bit longer, a little more enemies. Enemies tend to shoot at you a little bit more. While it's not extremely difficult, they figure that you're getting used to the mechanics of the game now. You got a few extra items, so they decided to start ramping up the difficulty a little bit.
Yeah, the biggest problem
first thing
is
here,
the checkpoints.
Sorry, go ahead.
The distance between checkpoints, definitely. A death in this area is a lot more punishing than basically the rest
Absolutely. Of the game. Yeah, if you die here, it can definitely lose you up to a minute each time you die, depending on where you die and everything. So it's very smart to play it safe in this level, to be honest. I know that that's kind of against speedrunner's credo, but sometimes going slow will actually save you time, especially in a punishing game like this.
We'll try to go as fast as possible, but we'll see how the health goes.
Yeah, we don't want to go slow. We also don't want to completely blow our estimate here.
The swag blade at this point too isn't really required. We could just lose it. It's kind of helpful, but it also kind of makes this part harder at times.
Yeah, when there's enemies that are destroyed that you're relying on to pogo off of or something like that, yeah, it can definitely throw things off a little bit.
Right there.
So as Big K mentioned, most people do tend to go ahead and lose the swag blade as soon as they get into this chapter. But it can definitely help a bit, because as you notice, Big K made it pretty far in the level there without even taking any damage.
Take it safe now. Cyber Shadow is starting to happen.
Yeah, you got me sweating over here.
Ooh. we're through.
It's like commentator's curse. As soon as I said something, you started taking massive damage.
Whew. Didn't get back yet, but we're safe. We're through. Oh my goodness. Shouldn't have said that.
Oh no.
We're through.
Oh, there's lack there. Oh, just one. You could only get one and the rest fell on the spikes. Man.
This death here would be bad. Okay, we got health. We're good. We're safe. That might have been the worst death that could have happened in the entire game. If that happened. Whew. Yeah, this level in particular is probably the most punishing. Especially...
Oh, it definitely is. And but there's the next room Big K is going to be coming into. If all goes well, he's going to try to go extremely fast, and you can actually cut off a little bit of the platforming here. We're going to see what happens. I don't want to jinx him. All right. By maintaining constant speed through that section, Big K was able to cut off having to go to the very top left corner of the screen, allowing him to save several seconds, and that's just by going fast. He didn't have to really do anything crazy or special. It's just maintaining that constant speed. So that was a really great job there, Big K.
Yeah, it's one of those rooms that's really consistent. It's not hard once you get a feel for it, but
it looks so smooth when you get it right.
If you slow down just a little bit, you're too late and you have to wait for a cycle.
Exactly. It looks so good when it's actually executed properly. I'm glad that it was you doing it and not me.
Whoops. There we go. Alright. Yeah, these whole rooms right at the end of this level they're pretty rough. There's a lot of enemies it throws at you, and they all do this electric damage, which is...
Yeah, and as soon as the electricity hits the water, it electrifies the water, and it's extremely dangerous through here, all of it. But once again, Big K doing pretty well.
I guess the technique is called pogoing, right? That's what I've always heard people call it. But
yeah,
you want to pogo off of enemies with your down slash as much as you can there. Alright, I'll let you take this boss from here.
All right, yeah, this is probably one of the more difficult bosses in the game, and it's because there's a lot of RNG involved here. Depending on a lot of things, player's position, he'll kind of alter his attacks in the direction that he goes and where he comes from, and he might come from the left, he might come from the right. The only thing that really remains constant is that he cycles back and forth between his attacks. The first one, he shoots fireballs at you. The second one, he electrifies the water. So what Big K is doing is trying to get up underneath him. First off, he's having to collect as much of the blue SP as he can, so that way he can do the rising fire attack. And then he's hoping that one of the platforms is close enough so he can get underneath the mouth and start shooting the rising fire. Big K did an extremely good job on that fight there. What was that, a 3-cycle?
That was a 4-cycle, but that's...
4-cycle, okay, 4-cycle.
Can't ask for much
which
better.
is still really, really good. Now, it is entirely possible, you can almost get a 1-cycle. I don't think that a 1-cycle is really...
It's not very marathon.
Possible. I don't think it's really been done too much more. If it's been done,
hard.
it's only been done once or twice. It's not something very common. So a 4-cycle is actually extremely good even still. Because it's not a thing to just get bad RNG and have an 8-cycle fight there. So a 4-cycle is something that you hope for when you're doing runs.
Oh, these ninjas.
Oh yeah, if you get the timing just wrong and they have their guard up, there's nothing you can do. You have to wait for them to put their guard down before you can attack them.
Usually, I find usually the luck's pretty good with where they land. They usually land right next to the pillar, or the crystal you're breaking, but they decided to split up pretty good that time. But anyways, that item we just got from beating that boss, we just got a sword enhancement. And it's probably the best thing in the game going forward. Because it basically doubles your damage. So all these hard enemies here are a lot easier to deal with. This is another one of those rooms that got tweaked a little bit. Section right here was a nightmare pre-patch.
Oh yeah, because there used to be an enemy right there in that little gap, right
There were
over the
enemies
water,
everywhere.
and he would just lay waste to runs. But it did get patched out, and it made it a little bit easier to make it through that section. Luckily, Big K is going to be stopping right here, and he's going to be purchasing a different upgrade. This is going to be the shield upgrade. And he's going to be trying to carry this through basically the entire next stage. So he's going to do his best to avoid any damage because your sub-weapons only get 3 hit points. As soon as Big K is hit for 3 times, he will lose it. And he's already been hit once, so now he's only got 2 hits to make it through the entire next level. Well, 1 hit, really, because if he gets hit twice, he loses that shield. And you want that shield in order to do a skip, which saves somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20-ish seconds.
Yeah, there's 2 skips with the shield you can get. So
if you get the second skip, it's going to save you an extra probably about 10, I'd say about 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's one of those, probably one of the toughest, like, it's not incredibly tough, but it's tough to do a boss and keep it without getting hit. I find that's the hardest part.
Oh, yeah.
Getting through the level with the shield. Oh, never mind. Get hit right away.
Oh, no.
Generally, it's pretty easy to get through the level itself.
The level normally isn't extremely difficult. Now, as you can see, though, you can easily get cyber shadowed and lose it right off the bat. Luckily, Big K still has a chance here. But it's going to be a lot tighter. He's going to have to play it safe sometimes. If it looks like it's going to be too dangerous, he's going to have to slow down just a little bit to make sure he doesn't get hit. Luckily, though, it is really a shield, so if these enemies start shooting at him or anything like that, it can help save your shield and your life.
Yeah, this part, you definitely want to try and manage as much. Oh! Okay.
Ooh, how did you not get hit? Oh my goodness.
Manage as much
that
SP
was
as
really
you can.
good.
Well, also, oh man,
I'm
scared. I'm just gonna wait a second. All right. Oh my goodness.
I don't blame you.
Alright, that's the worst of it. Whew, sweating there from that jump. We're almost at the end, but there's a couple parts where it's still a risk.
Hold my breath.
Play this part a little safe. Oh, it's over. Alright, well.
Oh. So he made it right there near the end. All he would have had to do is go through this door right here, and he's at the skip. Unfortunately, he lost that shield, so he's not going to be able to save that approximate 20 seconds there, or the additional 10 later on. Luckily, it's not a drastic time loss, and luckily he just recently saved at this checkpoint. But regardless, though,
but yeah,
it's not the end of the world. Yeah, that's not going to make or break the run. I mean, you can still get a really, really solid run even without that skip. It just definitely helps out.
A rough death to take, though, when you're literally right at the end.
Well, if it wasn't for that accidental hit at the beginning of the chapter, you would have been dead. Well, you should have been okay, because you wouldn't have had to take that long route.
Yep.
All right, and Big K just actually performed what we call the DM box. What that is basically, as you saw, as Big K was sliding down the wall into the room, he made his feet drop down below the ceiling level, and then he jumped back up. What he did by doing that was he allowed Shadow's feet to fall into the trigger box, and then he jumped back out of the trigger box, causing the Subject Alpha there to spawn early. By doing so, he saved approximately 4 seconds at the last time that we counted. So it's a nice little time save that was discovered. We call it DM Box because it was D and Keto who discovered that. So pretty cool little find. Just trying to exploit those trigger boxes.
Yeah, otherwise it's basically just you have to walk to the other end of the room.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's not a drastic
it's not a long thing,
save,
it's just
but
very nice to not
hey,
run.
4 seconds is 4 seconds. We'll take those time saves.
Oops.
Ooh.
Play this safe, just to make sure he's dead.
Alright, so this is the first phase of Subject Alpha. The ideal strat here is that you want to just basically stand in his face and parry as many of his attacks as you can, but that's extremely dangerous because parrying in this game is not the easiest mechanic that I've ever seen. You essentially have to wait until the projectile is directly in Shadow's face, and then you have to press the forward button. So you have to take your finger off of forward and then press the forward button again as soon as the projectile is there, and that allows him to parry the attack, and then he can knock it back. Though, as you can see, it can get extremely dangerous when you're just standing there taking shots straight to the face. But if you can nail those, it is extremely easy to just plow right through that boss.
Yeah, once the parry's hit, it's a lot. It's easy.
Yeah,
the parrying is awkward.
It's crazy how powerful some of the attacks are in this game, though. Parrying is completely OP in my opinion. If you can parry properly, and I'm not trying to bash you, I'm sorry, Big K, that's not the right way to say that. As long as the execution is there, parrying can make this game extremely easy.
There we go. That section's a little scary. Those enemies that I was using the sword to pogo off of, if you hit below them, they chase after you, and they'll actually chase you through that entire section, and it's very scary when there's spikes everywhere.
Alright, now we're on to Subject Alpha, the second fight with Subject Alpha. This one's a little bit different, as you can see. The boss is stationary, but he's using that parrying mechanic extensively here to help try to just shred his life. So every time that he's attacking right here, you can see him jump up and parry that attack and knock it right back into the eyeball, and should make pretty short work here. Nice. All right. Moving on. And this is the area where Big K would have saved that 10 additional seconds earlier if he would have been able to keep that shield, because you're able to hit a switch early, which allows you to bypass a little cutscene. But, you know, it's no big loss. 10 seconds isn't terrible. Not for a speed run that typically takes around an hour or more, depending on your experience level.
It's nice to save that 30 seconds in the end, but
oh, absolutely.
Not the end of the world.
So now this is where the game is actually going to start. Big K is going to get probably the most useful upgrade. I know I said that about the wall climb earlier, but this one is more useful in terms of speed running, because this is dash. This is going to allow Big K to zoom as fast as he can, so he's going to try to maintain that dash as often as possible, as well as a special attack that will allow you to do a really quick attack through your enemy. You'll see exactly what I mean here coming up soon. Alright, through those walls, you see it where Shadow's shadow turns blue. And that indicates that he's attacking moving forward. And as long as you're attacking an enemy or something, you do slash right through them or kill them if they're a one-hit kill.
Yeah.
Very useful skill to have for the rest of the game.
Yeah. The great thing about it is if you do get the kill, then it actually gives you an SP back. So it uses an SP, but you get it back as long as you actually dash through the enemy.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, as long as you're hitting those one-hit kills straight through, you can essentially do infinite dashes. There's actually an achievement that you can get for the game that if you can maintain 10 constant dashes, then you get the achievement. You're able to do that really only in one place in the game, but it's an achievement nonetheless, so it's something to strive for.
Yeah. We'll dash as much as possible here. There's some pretty good strings of dashes right here coming up that are really cool. Ooh, I have 1 SP. I'm gonna take this safe. So I'm a little low. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, this section can be particularly brutal. These spikes all over the place and everything. And it only gets worse beyond where Big K died at. So you really do have to play it safe sometimes here. It's better to err on the side of caution in this level, because this is one of those levels that is really easy to get cyber shadowed on.
Oops. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Alright, well he hit one of those tripwires and you see what happens. That little angry sun comes out, and it's never a good day when you see the angry sun.
Oh, I didn't even know that was... I was hoping for SP. I forgot that was there.
Oh, man.
Woo!
Oh my goodness, Big K, what are you doing to me?
I don't know how the fight's gonna go with this item, because I was just wanting SP.
Wow. So. Hey, GG's on getting through there, though.
Oh. So Tunnel Cleaner, you want to parry as much as you can.
Oh yeah, and if you can hit these enemies and knock it back into his eyeball when it's open, if you can get him to hit it approximately at the same time, oh, he missed that second shot because the eyeball closes as soon as it gets hit. But if you can time both of the little robots to hit him at approximately the same time, they'll both land, and it will drain his hit points so quickly. Yep. When that fight is so smooth to watch sometimes.
Yeah, had a little bit of an awkward hit early on, so had to kind of play it a little safe, but still quick if you can get those hits with the...
Oh, absolutely, the yeah, you did great. Yeah,
this is effectively where the game starts. Chapter 6
yeah.
on.
Yeah, because outskirts is not easy either. We're gonna come across the knock-knock walls. Those things are never fun. Shout outs to Mecha Skull for naming the door enemy a knock-knock. These little eyeballs, they shoot at you. It can be difficult. I remember my casual playthrough trying to fight through those knock-knock doors. It wasn't very easy to say the least.
Ooh, that was very close.
This one particularly is difficult with those spikes underneath you. All it takes is just one little misstep and you're off the edge.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people.
TheBigK did very well.
Have a tough time
along, and he's got full SP too, so that's really good. But honestly, though, coming up here in the cave section, I think it's a little bit better to not have full SP. It's better to be empty because then you can just dash right through the big bug.
Yeah,
and it's easier to get the sub weapon if you don't have SP.
Yeah, these sewers are, I would say, one of the hardest parts of the game. They don't look that bad, but
oh yeah, not at a speedrun level, but
bugs,
man, casually, it's brutal.
And these some skulls pop out of the water. You'll see them here, but they're one of the most annoying enemies to deal with. Ooh, one hit.
Ooh, all right. Yeah, no, that you're good.
So yeah, for this part, we want to keep this the item I have as long as possible. It's actually dispensing SP constantly. So the longer I have it, the more I just will have SP permanently. So it's a great...
Yeah, basically from here on out, if you can maintain that SP dispenser, it's best to, because then you can constantly dash. Because it drains the SP every time you dash, so obviously the more SP you have, the more often you can dash.
Oh! Took one more hit there.
Oh, it's all good. You still have it though. You're still in good shape. I love these little cyber rooms that they have in this game. The inversion of the colors and the, just the contrast of everything. I think it's a really cool addition that he made to the game. I would have liked to have seen an entire level with this, to be honest.
It would have been really cool. I
think it would have.
I was hoping just a little bit that maybe there'd be DLC at some point for the game, and if there ever is, I want it to be this.
Oh yeah, that'd be perfect. Like VR missions, kind of like what was that? Metal Gear Solid VR missions.
Yeah, it would be very
Make
cool.
it something like that, VR missions.
Alright, and here we're actually, we do have all the items already, or all the upgrades. But going to this dragon, the final statue, this one actually enhances every one of the items we've already collected throughout the game. So we'll now get
it allows you to charge them up as well as double jump.
shurikens.
And that double jump is the most important thing that you can get. It can save your butt so many times from falling into a pit or whatever. I mean, the double jump is extremely useful in this game.
But yeah, from here on, the game is kind of completely different from how it started. The movement and everything you have now is drastically different. This part of the game is my favorite from here on out.
It's just so fast. It looks so smooth and so perfect whenever you can run it well.
Ooh,
I have to agree, it's probably one of my favorite parts as well.
Quick reset of that room, because this room is... All these rooms going forward are kind of awkward if you get hit wrong like that.
Yeah, if you go slow, this is what happens when you go slow.
Oh!
I love that backup strat. Climbing the wall and doing that pogo.
Yeah. That is one of the scariest parts of this whole level. That and not having SP, because I am out. That SP
Yeah, but fortunately, the next checkpoint you'll be able to buy an SP dispenser, so it'll definitely help keep you right on the track. There you go. Let's get going. So this is going to turn into our ATM machine if everything goes well. I'll discuss that a little bit more once we get to that part. But Big K is going to do his best right now to make it through this as well as the next cyber section without taking any damage.
But yeah, you'll see from this part on, like, all the dashes, you actually get your double jump back, so that's how you're able to just stay in the air. As long as you jump, do another dashing hit, you get your jump back, and it really speeds up these sections. That was kind of the awkward part learning to play the game on the first time, because I didn't understand how that worked, and I know a lot of people didn't.
Oh, that was a really good cyber room.
Alright.
I about spoke too early and you almost took damage there, but that that was really good.
All there. We're good.
Alright, so this is the ATM machine that I was talking about. What ends up happening right before Big K got on, he made sure that he did not have full SP because he still has the SP dispenser, but it does not dispense SP while you're riding on this little motorcycle section. Instead, what it dispenses is money. So as long as he can make it through here, he'll be okay. He can take damage even, as long as he doesn't die, but if he takes damage, he doesn't lose any of his hit points off of his sub-weapon. But the whole time he's going here, he's just gaining more and more and more and more money. So the longer he can make it with this SP dispenser, the better off he's going to be through the later chapters of this game to not run out of money and be able to purchase all the upgrades that he needs to finish it out. So what's going to happen here, he's going to finish up this section here in the tunnel looking thing, and he's going to have to go through another part where he's got to walk on land in order to make it to the next section where you're riding on EXO. So he can still lose this SP dispenser in this next little section, so he's still going to do his best to not take damage coming up after this. But he'll stand to have a lot of money if he can make it through all of this. I think normally it should put you somewhere in the neighborhood of about 175 extra essence, I believe it's called. As long as you can make it all the way through both sections.
Yeah, definitely try to play it a little safer than normal. We're gonna want to get the money.
Yeah, but luckily you still have all the hit points for your SP dispenser, so that's really going to help you out. So as long as you don't play recklessly, you should be okay.
Also, I don't know if it was brought up, but we are a robot, or we are a cyber ninja riding a motorcycle. It is too cool. This game's awesome.
Oh, you should have dashed through the wall.
Yeah, I saw it literally happen.
It's not worth it, not at this point where you're at, because the last thing you need to do is take a death at this point. I'm just being funny with you. So here's the second part. Now, instead of being in the motorcycle, you're actually playing as EXO, who's essentially a transformer, for lack of a better term. You're riding inside of this robot. But once again, the entire time that he's going through here, he's still gaining more and more money, and anytime he gets hit, he is not losing any damage off of the SP, any of the HP on the SP dispenser. So he's doing extremely well with that money. He's already up to 167, so...
But yeah, that boss is relatively straightforward. It's not actually random where he appears. As long as you follow the same pattern every time. He'll actually drop down in the same spot every run. So it makes
Yeah, and
that
it's
fight
one of the
really
few
easy.
sections of the game that actually requires true mashing in order to get the ideal cycle on that boss. Because you have to mash that attack as fast as you can in order to get those attacks off and get that DPS up higher. Using the damage per second.
Yeah, that whole section's not... It's really like you just want to run through things, but if you hit the wrong enemy, it can actually drain your health really fast. So, the whole time we were trying to hit shields. Shields kind of just tend to do 1 HP. Whereas everything else does like 3.
Yeah. Yeah, that section can be kind of dangerous, so Big K did really well. Unfortunately, our friend Exo has been destroyed by the Apparitor, who we saw earlier on in the game. He was the boss of the first chapter. He destroyed Exo and moved on, and luckily, though, our friend Shadow is still alive, but unfortunately, you can see our friend Exo laying over there.
Rip Exo.
Rip Exo.
Wait. Oh no, that's right.
Now, to be honest, in my opinion, this section coming up is one of the more difficult parts of the game, just because there's a string of several checkpoints that it takes a lot of endurance to make it through. Very easy to kill a run, or especially on a casual playthrough, it's easy to burn through deaths. But if you can get some really good jumps and dashes, it's not too bad to make it through. But it's a nightmare trying to get through here casually.
Played that a little safe, but it was good.
Oh yeah, you made it through without taking damage. That's all that's important. You still have full HP on your dispenser, so that's really good.
Oops. Oh,
There's
no.
our angry son
No,
friend
no.
again. Oh no!
Well, we lost it. That last enemy is like impossible to dodge.
Oh
for
no!
me.
Oh my goodness.
I think it's a little slow here too, so we're gonna have to... This guy's... Oh!
Oh.
Luckily, checkpoint right there. That's not a bad death.
Yeah, these jumps are a little tighter than they look, but unfortunately Big K did take that death, but he was able to make it through the second time with no problems. So we'll call that a first try every time.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Oh, good shot.
Oh, no!
Ooh, this is a bad level to have no SP. This is probably the hardest room in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, this checkpoint right here, and that's kind of just ties right into me saying earlier that this is the hardest stretch of the game. Oh man, this checkpoint can be brutal as well.
Play this a little slow.
You don't get this timing just right and kind of memorize some of these patterns, yeah, it's a nightmare casually.
This part looks really cool, though. I really like it. Whoops.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All those walls, you typically hit them in the spot that glows, but with the enhanced new shuriken we got, you can actually break the walls anywhere just by hitting it with that.
Yeah, because you're throwing a kunai, and it's an exploding one. So once it attaches to the wall, it explodes, and hey, problem solved. No more wall. Doing good though. Moving on to chapter 9.
I always find this part funny because I don't have my splits on. There's only really 10 minutes left of the run, but there's 2 levels. There's only 10 chapters in the game. But these last few you really burn through quick with the dash and run.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If executed well, these levels take almost no time. But once again, this is Cyber Shadow, and it's extremely easy to get Cyber Shadowed in these next 2 levels. There are only 10 chapters in this game, so we're getting pretty close here, guys.
Whoops. Oh no. Ooh. This room's kind of annoying.
Oh.
Taking that
Only
very
one
safe, 'cause
SP.
1 SP is not fun.
1 SP in a dream.
All we need is one.
Yeah, now you have none. Good thing you made it through.
Oh, the big one. Alright, we're good now. Whoops. Ooh. Alright, and now we get another auto-scroller for the last part of the level.
Yep. So what this is here is we have a boat that is an auto-scroller that we're getting constantly attacked by these enemies. There's actually a little caveat to this part here that we used to refer to it as slow boat and fast boat, which I guess you can still refer to it that way. But coming up here at the very end of this level, Big K is either going to get what we call the slow boat, which once he beats all the enemies, it takes an extended period of time for the boat to disappear, or at least the level to transition rather, and you kind of lose time. And at one point in time, we really thought that there was no way to determine what happened or how you're going to get a slow boat or fast boat or anything like that. Because fast boat definitely saves you at least a few seconds. After a lot of experimentation, though, we discovered that, number one, once again, refresh rate on your monitor can play into this. Higher refresh rates seem to tend to give you a fast boat over a slow boat. But what we ultimately discovered was that there's a certain enemy that either he's going to spawn or he doesn't spawn. Ooh. And that can affect whether or not you get the slow boat or the fast boat.
That was maybe the slowest boat I've ever seen.
And unfortunately, there's no real way that you can predict it other than counting the enemies that you're fighting. And then you can actually predict whether it's going to be a slow boat or a fast boat. But there's no real way that we can change that short of refresh rate. So it's just one of those RNG factors that we can't really influence too much, especially if you're bound by technical limitations. Alright, and he got the one cycle combinatron, because the thing about this boss here that he just completely demolished is that after you take a certain amount of life off of him, his hands will refill his life. And if he starts refilling his life, it's impossible to get the one cycle, and then in which case you have to destroy the hands to prevent him from being able to cure himself, and then you have to destroy the head. But luckily Big K was able to go fast enough to get that one cycle, and it saves quite a bit of time. So very good job there, Big K. Ooh.
Yeah, this whole part, last chapter, is a lot of close calls with jumps. I'll let you explain them while I do these.
Oh yeah, well, as you can see, those little glowing white and blue looking things, that's spikes. So essentially you're just having to constantly dash or constantly jump somehow in order to get past all those spikes and all those enemies, or you can take the slow platform. Of course, the speedrunners do not want to take the slow platform, so we try to find ways to keep that dash streak going to allow you to stay in the air and just completely bypass everything. Big K did a really good job on that last section. It is extremely easy to lose 5 minutes on this level alone just from dying a few times because you just couldn't get a dash to connect. So Big K is doing extremely well right now, because he's actually coming up to near the second to last boss. We're going to call him the second to last boss of the game. Things go well. Big K could definitely get like right at about an hour here. I don't think that he'll be able to get a sub hour at this point in time, but it's going to be really close. As long as things go well. No pressure.
Oh no, bad hits. Yeah, little mess up on this boss. You mostly want to parry him get rid of these eyes as quick as you can.
Yeah, the little eyes don't do too terribly. I mean, it doesn't take any damage off of him. You got to hit the big eye in the middle. But if you destroy the little eyes that were surrounding it, then that definitely helps prevent a lot of attacks. So BigK did a good job making it through there, and now he's on to the last stretch of the game. What we refer to this as the climb. I don't even want to speculate how long it took me casually to make it through the climb. In my opinion, it ended up being short of the other section that I said was probably the most difficult stretch of the game. This is probably the most difficult room in the game, in my opinion. Just because all these enemies, those purple drones, they have artificial intelligence that will seek you out, and they are programmed to predict your movement. So all it takes sometimes is you to think of an action, and that purple drone is already there to block you. As you see here, those drones just prevented him from being able to get up there to that top door very quickly. He had to go around to the bottom right side before he could actually make it up to the doorway, because those drones were predicting what he was about to do.
There we go. We have a lot of money for the last boss.
All right, we're coming up here to the last boss of the game, and we say this is the last boss. Technically, it's a string of 3 separate bosses. Here's the Apparitor. This was the boss of the first chapter. He was also the same character that destroyed Exo earlier on. But we're finally beating Apparitor here. You're not going to see this guy again, but now we're going to fight the ultimate bad guy, Dr. Progen. There's going to be 2 phases of Dr. Progen here, and it's really just about trying to get as much damage against him as quickly as possible. You can parry a lot of his attacks here, and you can shred him. I mean, as you see, BigK has the SP dispenser, so as soon as his SP starts filling up, he's just attacking him with the rising fire and whatever firepower he can throw at him. So quick. I mean, he just blazed right through those first 2 fights, already on to the final form.
Actually got a good bug here. There's no music.
All right. In which case, BigK got the glitch. It's a music glitch that was discovered that essentially you just have to go fast. If you fight that second phase really quickly, if you do it fast enough, it prevents the music from properly loading here on the 3rd phase. So you really just only get sound effects here.
So enjoy the slashes.
Yeah. And we're making use of these little orbs that are on the side by pogoing off of them to get a little bit of extra height. So that way we can attack the Dr. Progen there in the center. If you time the jumps properly, you can get 3 hits per jump on Dr. Progen. It's not extremely easy to get those 3 because the timing has to be just right, but looks like BigK did a really good job making it through. We're probably going to end somewhere around 102.30-ish, something like that. But we are coming up here at the very end of the game. That was the last boss. Now we just have to make it through the final scene of the game and be the master.
Yep, the rest here is just your reward for getting through the game. You get a minute of relaxing gameplay.
Now, he says relaxing gameplay, but it is entirely possible to softlock yourself here. Now, BigK cannot softlock himself right now because you have to have at least 1 shuriken in order to do the softlock. But it was discovered by the TheBigK1 himself that you can actually softlock the game at the very, very end. He actually had a PB run that had a softlock at the end.
I'm just lucky that way. But yeah, Cyber Shadow, amazing game. The timer ends basically right here at the end as we are actually freeing the master of our clan.
Yeah, we got to hit these last 4 switches, and then a final switch appears in the middle of the screen, and then it's going to be time. as soon as the screen fades to black. And time. 102.41. GG's Big K1. That was a great run. And as Big K1 said, this is a really, really fun game. It is brutal. I'm not going to lie and not going to try to sugarcoat it at all. It's a very difficult game. But as I mentioned at the very beginning of the run, that difficulty only leads to fulfillment. As soon as you complete levels, as soon as you beat bosses, as soon as you make it through sections, that feeling of accomplishment is there. There was a person that I saw in the Discord that posted a screenshot of their final run time, and we're talking, they stuck with it now. It's like a 40-hour run with 25-ish hundred deaths. They really endured through that run, and it was, I'm sure for them, making it through that difficulty was probably very rewarding, because I know that when I played through, it was very rewarding for me.
Yeah, exactly. I think my first playthrough, I think I had around 500 deaths. It does tell us at the end how many deaths we had, so...
Yeah, mine, I think 400, I think I had like 452 or 453 or something like that. So, I mean, it is a pretty brutal game, but the difficulty only enhances the play because it makes you want to keep playing. It makes you want to push harder and try to actually make it through the game. And hey, for all you know, you might enjoy speedrunning this game. It does take some practice, I'm not going to lie. It's not something that you can just jump right into and expect to have really top times. But after some hard work and dedication to this game, it's extremely easy to start getting better at the game. So the time can really, really come off pretty quickly the more effort that you put into it. So now we're about to see the very last scene of the game where there's a person, unknown person, we don't know who this guy is, comes in and plugs in a data jack into, well, he puts an input into a data jack.
He's got a USB port on his head, I guess.
And he basically just stole Shadow's memories, as far as we know. We don't really know exactly what's going on there, but he only had 4 deaths on that run. That's extremely good. Great job there, Big K.
Yeah,
great job.
4 deaths is really good, I'd say, for any kind of race or marathon type run. So I'm very happy with that.
Oh yeah, no, big GG's there. Great job.
I'm not sure how much time we have left or not. If it's
I think we're basically here at the end of our time.
I think right away we actually have the next run is Richie Kupu with Link to the Past Super Metroid Randomizer, which is awesome. That is one of the coolest randomizers I think that's out there.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out and watching this run. And please consider donating for our Link to the Cure. It would definitely help everybody out. So we really appreciate everybody's time out there, and it was a very fun run to watch. GG's again, Big K.
Yep. And anybody that wants to try this out, I mean, it's a great game. It's usually kind of on sale. It's if you like Ninja Gaiden, The Messenger, anything like that, it's a great game. It's not really a Metroidvania, at least to go through like we did. But you can go back to past levels, and it kind of becomes Metroidvania-like that way. But it's a great game. It's a homage to Ninja Gaiden mainly, Castlevania kind of thing. And yeah, check it out. Shoutouts to Mecha Skull for making this game, and Yacht Club for, I guess they produced it. Yeah, and thanks to Link to the Cure for having me and Samurai here to show you this game.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.